for those listening to our meeting, we were having issues with our translation. It seems to have been resolved. So we're going to go ahead and call the roll once again, Madam Clerk.
Blumenfield. Bonin.
Bonin present.
Thank you. Buscaino.
Here.
Cedillo.
Here.
Thank you. De Leon.
Here.
Harris Dawson.
Present.
Koretz.
Present.
Krikorian.
Here.
Lee.
Present.
Martinez.
Present.
O'Farrell.
Present.
Price.
Present.
Rahman.
Here.
Ridley Thomas.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
14 members and a quorum, Madam President.
Okay, thank you. We left off. We have already voted on items 3 and 5, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take public comment.
That is correct. And as indicated on the agenda, members of the public wishing to offer public comment should call 669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-535-8466 and press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak. Finally, when you hear the last 4 digits of your phone number, press star 6. And again, call 669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-535-8466 and press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak. And when you hear the last 4 digits of your phone number, press star 6.
So, to members of the public calling in, when it's your turn to speak, please state which of the agenda items you'd like to speak on. You have 1 minute per item to speak, up to 3 minutes total, and if you wish, 1 minute for general public comment. Please speak on the items before general public comment. We'll tell you when your time's up. When speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. If you're not speaking on topic, or if we can't tell whether you're on topic, you'll get 1 brief warning from me or the president. If you don't immediately get clearly on topic, or again stray off topic, you may be cut off and forfeit the rest of your speaking time, and we'll move on to the next speaker. We'll take 30 minutes total public comment. The items that are open for public comment are items 1 and 10 through 32. That's 1 and 10 through 32. Finally, for members of the public calling in to speak, when you hear someone address you, either by reading out the last 4 digits of your phone number or other identifying information if you're calling in with a block number, please press star 6 right away to unmute yourself to tell us what items you want to speak on. We understand that you may be listening on channel 35 or another device. If you are, still keep one ear to the phone because there's a slight time delay between the live broadcast, or the broadcast and the live meeting. And if you're only listening to the broadcast, when we read out your identifying information, you may not press star 6 right away, and we may think you're no longer on the line and move on to the next person. Also, if you are listening on another device, when it's your turn to speak, please turn down the volume on those other devices right away. Because of the time delay and feedback, it will cause a lot of confusion if you continue to listen on the other device. Thank you, Madam President, and we are ready to begin public comment.
Okay, let's go ahead and take the first caller.
And Madam President, I'm here. I was a moment late. Blumenfield,
Oh,
present.
thank you, Mr. Blumenfield. Please record him as being here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's go ahead and take the first speaker.
Caller ending in 0899, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
My name is Stacy Dawson Stearns, and I would like to speak on general public comment and item 25, please.
Sure. So you have one.
Good morning.
You have 1 minute
good morning,
for item
council
25,
members.
followed by a minute
I've
for
all
general.
been very busy. I'm sorry, Fabio, you talking to me?
I said you have 1 minute for item 25 and then 1 minute for general public comment. Please begin.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Item 25, I'm glad it's been continued, but I got to point something out here, y'all. The motion language is completely erroneous. This is not about a 67-unit residential project. This is about a 468-unit luxury apartment project that has over 16,000 or 160,000 square feet of commercial space. This is a project that City Council and Planning Commission have buried an California Environmental Quality Act appeal, claiming that it's timed out. I'd like anyone listening to look up Council File 210024. There's a communication from the public, from the head of the Lincoln Heights Community Coalition, that disputes the fact that the Planning Commission informed the City Council that this was closed. It's absolutely not closed at all. I'm just going to read a small excerpt from this. This is a perfect storm of why, this is a textbook example of
Thank you,
why Los
Speaker.
Angeles is so screwed right now. And every single council member who's listening to me right now speak, and I hope you are. If you care about affordable housing, if the fire is under your bums the way it should be, and I mean your rear end, the way it should be with Judge Carter's heat, then you will absolutely refuse to comply with your fellow council member Cedillo's request to divert over $1 million in bonds to support a luxury project that's been opposed by the community for over a year, for environmental concerns, for it has a TOC designation, which is a complete load of crap to put it through just to get density and to get waivers and to bypass public hearing, which, by the way, they bypassed every possible public hearing. The Pinion Group are the developers, okay? Robert DeForest is now the vice president of the Lincoln Heights Industrial Zone bid. Of course, you wouldn't know that because that's not on their website because they haven't updated since 2019. This entire project is riddled with problems.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. Just a reminder that item 25 has been continued to May 18th.
Thank you. That was my fault, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Let's go ahead and take the next caller.
Caller ending in 1112, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
So they can know that they may be surrendering their opportunity to engage in honest debate around facts.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. We're going to continue public comment. This item's been continued to May 18th.
Caller ending in 1112, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Sergio Vargas. Yo quiero hablar en public comment, general public comment.
And you have a minute.
You have a minute.
Muy bien. Gracias.
Un momentito, deme un momentito. Le vamos a poner una traductora. Hable poquito despacio para que lo podamos traducir, ¿ok? Tiene un minuto.
Perfecto.
Ok, comience, por favor.
Yo soy un miembro de ACE. En estos momentos hemos visto en los últimos 2 años un nivel de acoso demasiado grande.
In the last 2 years, we've seen a really high level of harassment. I'm a member of ACE. Continúe.
Hemos visto señoras de 74 años que las han dejado por fuera de sus apartamentos.
We've seen
Hemos visto
ladies
familias con hijos. Go ahead.
some women of 74 years old that they've been left out without a house and family with children. Sí, lo escucho.
Y a familias con hijos que tienen que ver a los dueños gritándoles, diciéndoles que los van a echar, que van a terminar debajo de un puente. Hemos visto dueños tocando la puerta súper duro, entrando a los apartamentos sin avisarle a la gente.
So these children have to endure like the landlords like screaming at them and threatening that they will be kicked out and they're going to end up living under a bridge, and also like they come knocking at the doors and kicking the doors, and this kind of harassment. Sí, continúe.
Por eso, para poder parar toda esta clase de acoso, estamos apoyando el antiacoso con las enmiendas propuestas por Nicia Raman. Estas enmiendas protegen a los inquilinos y crean una guía para poder hacer el enforce de esta ley.
That's why we are supporting the law of anti-harassment from Ms. Roman, because this is protecting people against harassment. So we are in support of this law.
Y no queremos, estamos completamente oponiéndonos a las enmiendas de parte de los dueños por el concejal John Lee. Estas enmiendas crean más acoso y van a darle libertad a estos dueños para poder acosar. El acoso no se puede curar.
We are also opposing the amendments
that would give more power to the tenants so they can keep harassing, and then it would be like worse.
It would give more power to the landlords, not tenants.
Le va a dar,
But
oh,
yeah,
yeah,
please
perdón,
oppose,
sí, le va a dar más
John
poder
Lee's
a los
amendment,
propietarios.
landlord's amendment.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so this would give more power to the landlords, so we are against these
Gracias.
amendments.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias a usted.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker.
Caller ending in 4416, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
La persona que llama del 4416, presione estrella 6 para quitarse el silencio.
Speaker, are you there?
Caller ending in 4416, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Sí, buenos días.
Buenos días. ¿Habla español?
Sí, por favor, necesito traducción.
Ok, le voy a pedir, ¿va a hablar en puntos generales o tiene algo en la agenda de hoy?
Sí, está muy bien, gracias.
Ok, le vamos a dar un minuto. Nomás le pido que hable poquito despacio para que la traductora le pueda traducir.
Sí, está bien, gracias.
Ok,
Muy
por
amable.
favor, comience.
Hola, mi nombre es Yadira Michel. Soy miembro de la organización ACE. Y quiero hacer un comentario público y me gustaría que el concejal Gil Cedillo y Nuri Martínez apoyen las enmiendas de la concejal Ramen, por favor. Les pido porque yo soy una de las inquilinas que ha vivido acosada durante mucho tiempo por el dueño.
Okay.
Un momentito para que le podamos traducir.
Yes, I am a member of ACE, and I'm asking Council Member Cedillo and the President Nuri Martinez to support this law anti-harassment. I am a person that's been having this experience of harassment. Okay, continúe.
Sí, mire, yo como le estoy diciendo, yo soy de las inquilinas que tengo 4 hijos y mi esposo que hemos vivido durante toda la pandemia acosadas por el dueño, ya que el dueño tiene un hijo policía y lo ha usado mucho para hostigarnos y asustarnos, que lógicamente lo ha logrado porque a mis hijas las tiene muy asustadas.
Okay, so I have 4 kids and my husband, and we've been during the pandemic, we've been harassed by the landlord because he has a son who is a policeman, so he's being taken advantage of the situation, and my daughters are really scared at this point. They got what they wanted, that is just to scare all of us. Continúe, señora.
Ha llegado al punto de que también nos ha amenazado mucho con inmigración porque dice que su hijo tiene el poder. Yo no entiendo que si es un policía, él tiene que trabajar para la ciudad, no creo que trabaje para la familia de él. Y por eso nos gustaría mucho que nos apoye nuestro concejal Gil Cedillo y Nuri Martínez para que apoyen a todas esas personas que estamos viviendo del acoso de los inquilinos, de los dueños.
Okay,
por favor,
so
le pedimos.
we come to the point where this landlord even threatened us with immigration, like turning us into the immigration, and I don't understand how is this possible, because these people should be working for the city, this policeman should be working for the city, not for the landlord. So we really are asking we're requesting it to be supported by Council Member Cedillo and Nuri Martinez.
Okay, gracias. Gracias, señora.
Muchas gracias.
Next speaker.
Siguiente.
Caller ending in 1669, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Sí, hola, mi nombre es Hassan. Quiero hablar en comentarios públicos.
¿Que necesita traductora?
Sí.
Que tiene un minuto. Por favor, comience, hable despacito para que la puedan traducir.
Gracias. Hola, mi nombre es Hassan Zuniga, vivo en el distrito 14. Quiero dejarle un mensaje, soy miembro de ACE, quiero dejarle un mensaje a Nuri Martínez y a Gil Cedillo que apoyen la proposición de nuestra concejal y campeona Nuri Martínez para parar el anticoso de nuestros inquilinos en Los Ángeles. Tienen el poder de hacer esto porque conozco familiares como Kylie, que vivía en Tahanga y que fue desalojada, ¿verdad?
Okay, me espera un minutito que traduzco. Sí, my name is Hassan and I'm from District 14 and I'm a member of ACE, and I'm Also asking the council members Nuri Martini and Gil Cedillo to support us, to support the law, he said, from Nuri Martinez. And we really need support for this anti-harassment law. And there's this case of this person called Kylie. Sí, continúe. Estaba contando de esta
Sí, este miembro de nuestra comunidad. Fue desalojada por mentiras del dueño. Y tiene 4 hijos. Imagínense una mujer soltera levantando en crisis, ¿verdad?, a sus hijos y tratando de pagar la renta lo más posible, y fue desalojada al final del día.
Okay, so yeah, so this woman, Kylie, was evicted. And she has 4 children, and she's been like really working hard to try to lift them up and support them. And so, yes, she was being harassed and like basically evicted.
Entonces, por eso es que queremos que nuestros concejales, todos los que están escuchando este mensaje hoy, pero especialmente a Nuri Martínez, que es la presidenta del concejal, y a Queserillo, que es del Comité de Vivienda, que apoyen estas proposiciones de Nuri Martínez, y que también todos esos concejales que ahorita están en la Junta, que también lo apoyen cuando...
Gracias.
Gracias. So that's why we are requesting the council members, especially Nuri Martínez and everybody that's listened to, please support this law.
Next speaker.
Caller ending in 5290, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in 5290, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in 5352, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yes, good morning. I'd like to speak on the item proposed by Nithya Raman. And my name is Sylvia with ACE. Sylvia Venegas with ACE, and I live in CD6. And I'm asking everyone to please be considerate. We are the ones that are seeing and hearing the stories of people being constantly harassed left and right, using the police as a tactic, and also intimidating by threatening with immigration. We know that not everybody has the ability to understand what protections are, and not everybody is able to call in, especially when we are limited to public comment, because you guys decide when to turn off the mic and when to allow to hear the stories that are truly happening out there. I speak on everybody in the Valley. The Valley has never been so overpopulated by unhoused people under the freeways all over. They're just being shifted left and right. We demand that these protections are approved immediately, because we know.
Caller ending in 3582, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
My name is Kamal. I wanted to make a general comment.
Sure, you have a minute. Please begin.
I'm with ACE, and I live in District 13, and I also support the anti-harassment proposal with the amendment from Raman. And I've seen, like in the previous caller, I've seen like a whole lot of victims of harassment that are forced into the street, because they self-evict. They don't really know what is going on. They know the landlord keeps telling these things, and they feel like, all right, I gotta go. And LA has this huge houseless problem, and it's just exasperating. It's pushing more people out there. It's creating more houselessness, and we need to protect these people and protect, the whole environment. We know what happened at Echo Park was terrible, and we don't want to see that stuff happen continuously. So I need folks to do that. I need Mitch to grow a heart to do that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Caller ending in 5162, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak.
Michael Hayden, I'd like to speak on general public comment.
And you have a minute. Please begin.
Hi, I'm calling on City Council to schedule a hearing for a CEQA appeal that is being unlawfully suppressed by city planning. You'll find it in Council File 21-0024. It's a mega mixed-use development in Lincoln Heights that has evaded adequate environmental review. And under state law, a new review must be prepared that addresses the century of toxic waste dumping that the Department of Toxic Substance Control acknowledges is likely to affect this property. The previous review made no mention of any of these toxins, including PCE and TCE, but only mentions lead paint. This is across the street from an elementary school and family residences. City planning is currently blocked from clearing any construction here. DTSC will not approve residential use until they learn what is underground here. And yet City Council is putting this up for a vote in 2 weeks to approve $105 million in funding. Please hear this CEQA appeal. City Council must ensure that any new development on brownfields follow all state requirements for risk assessment and remediation. We can't be building housing on toxic soil. We can't be exposing the neighbors to the toxic fumes and toxic soils that excavation.
Thank you, Speaker.
Caller ending in 5320, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
My name is Chuck Lamanak. I would like to speak on the anti-harassment bill that's before y'all. And I would like to give you a brief idea of what it's like to enter poverty due to this COVID pandemic. My landlord has denied laundry services. He's denied the kitchen use in the home. He's installed 3 cameras within 16 foot of my back door to monitor me, audio and video. He has disconnected my asthma medical device on multiple occasions to try to get me out of the home. He's also installed cameras and lights that point at my space, and in particular the night this week to disturb my sleep. He's refused to accept the 25% mandate by the governor. He's reached out to family members in other states to try to make my life more complicated. Bangs on the walls and screams that he's going to mess me up. Screams constantly, removes internet, making it impossible to commute and do Zoom appointments with doctors, upload work product to get work done. He also pours smokes into the ventilation system.
Thank you, Speaker.
Next speaker.
Caller ending in 6206, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
General comment. My name is Abdullah Muhammad. I'm with the community group ACE. I live in the 8th district, and I'm calling in support of Nephew's Raymond anti-harassment ordinance plus the amendments as people's catching hell being harassed. Once this COVID is over, or they open the city, they're going to catch double hell. So we need this anti-harassment ordinance plus the amendments that go with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Caller ending in 3328, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yes, my name is Gurnell Washington. Here to make a general comment in regards to the anti-harassment ordinance.
Please begin.
Is this okay?
Yes, please begin.
Thank you. I'd like to first just commend everyone on the great job that you're doing. However, job can always be better. The 12 amendments that Nathia Rahman is proposing allows enforcement for the tenants to have a sound peace of mind. The amendments that John Lee is proposing does not in any way give a peace of mind to the tenants at all. That would not do justice for the people that have elected you, that are in masses, that are suffering at this moment, which is definitely needed. I am one of those people. I'm a member of ACE as a result of this suffering from my landlord who went through a false eviction notices, hasn't fixed my garage. I'm disabled. I'm currently suffering from major depression.
Thank you, Speaker.
Caller ending in 2616, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yes, it's Eric Previn calling from Studio City, and I'd like to speak on all of the available items and a general public comment.
Sure. So, Mr. Previn, you have 1 minute for 3 minutes for items 1 and 10 through 32. Except item 25, followed by 1 minute for general. Please begin.
Including item, correct?
Not including item 25. It's been continued, but you're free to talk about it during general public comment, of course.
Well, the chat just talked about it. Maybe he was in general. Fine, let's move on. I'd like to thank Mr. Price at item 31 because he's changing the language finally from, we don't want to use 4th of July anymore. We want to call it the Central Avenue Jazz Festival. And that is very nice, and I don't mind that. You may have noted some of the events around town get, kind of relabeled in various ways. One minor snag earlier in the meeting, we learned that only the Spanish folks were getting English and the English folks were getting Spanish. I'm going to talk about how the city has looked after the Hispanohablantes in the past coming up. But, there was an interesting dialogue where Mr. De Leon introduced it when they said, hey, this is a good policy going forward. The joke was then people wouldn't understand, it would be scrambled. He thought it would be a good policy, and Krikorian said it's a teachable moment. And then Mr. Cedillo in Spanish started joking.
Which item are you on, Mr. Previn?
Any of this on topic?
I don't think so.
31.
Mr. Previn, which item are you on?
31, the Jazz Festival.
Also,
If you're on 31, please make it clear how this is relevant to item 31.
Okay, the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, the quote I'm about to tell you is that they suggested maybe starting the meetings with Gil Scott-Heron. I love Gil Scott-Heron, and I like the idea. So that's where it's related. And it's totally, well, I think certainly agree, Mr. Ridley Thomas, as does Mr. Cedillo.
Go MIT, go MIT.
Continue, Mr. Previn.
Please, hold Mr. Previn's time.
Ridley Thomas said that there's a couple of hit and run items.
Okay, Mr. Previn, please continue.
Finally, after a long time, paying $50,000 out to folks who have observed hit and run. First of all, I'm glad we're catching people, but this is new, and that should be studied because we never used to catch anyone. Item 21, which I know you can speak on, that's in the section where you can speak, is the class action settlement. This is a tough one, guys. Here, the city wasn't found by a judge to do anything wrong, but they did anything wrong, but they settled with the lawyers, $7 million out the door to one, and then the fishy part is 1.2 million out to the other, because I looked at it and I thought that the attorneys were only supposed to get 25% of the settlement fund. But if 25% of 7 million is more than when you add 1.2, then 25%. So it looked a little fishy. This is all for the natural gas utility user tax snafu, where we were overcharging customers, and I have no idea how Fun Fit Factory found this out or figured it out. They're the ones who eventually brought the lawsuit. Hey, good work on the lighting districts also. There's a bunch of them up there, and I'd like to really take a close look as we go forward at the copper wire thievery that's going on apparently in our lights downtown. There's an initiative that came up in the budget hearing. Now, the budget hearing, unfortunately, we are at the general public
and you can
comment
go,
now.
You can go into general if you want, Mr. Previn.
We're not there at general yet?
You are right now.
Okay. So at general public comment, I have to address the budget hearing. I love the budget because it's so important. It's a living, breathing document. We've got lots of platitudes that we all like to share. But it's important to take public input. And I know that there's been a wrinkle, and unfortunately, I have now had to go back to the court. I'm going back to the court to make it clear that at any special meeting, whether it's one item, item one, when you agendize it and notice it, you have to take a public comment. And you can't do what you're doing. You're treating it like a continued regular meeting. It's not. It's a special meeting every single day. So I hate to get technical, but I do feel that what we miss is hearing from the people. I have learned so much this year that people have stepped up to the mic and informed us of what's going on in our communities, told us so that they don't just have to listen to wonks like you and me who know exactly what's going on, which is bad, but from people who are living in the streets, who know. And instead, you have decided to do a radical reduction of public comment. It's totally inappropriate. I will not stop until this is rectified. You should be taking public comments from your constituents. End of story.
Thank you, Mr. Previn.
Caller ending in 1566, press *6 to unmute yourself. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
1566, right?
Speaker, which items would you like to speak on?
Quiero hacer un comentario público.
I want to make a public
You have
comment.
1 minute.
Mi nombre es Elizabeth Hernández.
Un momentito, la traductora le va a traducir. Lo único que necesito es que hable un poquito despacio para que la traductora la pueda traducir, ¿ok?
Claro.
Ok, comience por favor.
Sí, mi nombre es Elizabeth Hernández y soy un miembro de ACE.
I'm Elizabeth Hernandez and I am a member of ACE.
Yo vivo en el Distrito 9 y hemos mirado mucho acoso. Yo, mi dueño anterior, nos acosaba el manager hasta llegar al punto de llamar a la trabajadora social sin causa alguna, a tomar video en mi apartamento, tomar video de mi afuera.
So I am in District 9 and we've suffered seriously harassment to the point that the owner called social services and they came to start the videos of my apartment outside, the outside part of my apartment. Continúe, señora.
Llamaron a la trabajadora social sin causa alguna y eso creó un tipo de trauma con mis hijos porque no se explicaban el por qué estaba ahí una trabajadora social.
So there was no cause to call this a social worker, and my children were really traumatized because they were there with this social worker and had no idea why she was called.
Es muy importante que las enmiendas de Nityan Raman pasen y no las del señor Lee, porque nos pone en riesgo a inquilinos de bajos recursos que somos acosados.
So it is very important that the amendments of Ms. Raman are approved and that the amendments of Councilmember Lee are not adopted because it puts in risk those who are in a difficult situation.
No podemos curar el acoso hacia nuestros niños y tenemos que explicarles lo que está pasando, que tal vez se puedan quedar sin hogar debido a un mal dueño o a un mal manejador de propiedad.
So how are we going to tell our children that they may lose their property, our house, due to a bad landlord or due to this kind of harassment?
Okay. Muchas gracias, señora, por hablar.
Gracias, señora.
Caller ending in 7136, press *6 to unmute yourself.
136. Presione estrella 6.
Caller ending in 713. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Alma Quiñones, and I have a general public comment.
And you have a minute. Please begin. Please begin.
Okay. Yes, so I am in favor of the anti-harassment bill because as a tenant here in District 15, I've been harassed enormously, and I'd like the City Council, Gil Cedillo and Nuri Martinez, to please pay immediate attention and pass the tenant anti-harassment ordinance, peer funding for enforcement, and attorney's fees, and to offset the rent for landlords, because landlords are using all illegal tactics and they're being backed up by law enforcement. Police officers ignore basic tenant rights, and they're shifting all tenant landlords matters to the courts as civil matters, and that is extreme harassment and violation of our rights as tenants. I video recorded my landlord's son, an LAPD officer, attesting to fake and false court paperwork. And
thank you, Speaker.
Okay, that concludes public comment. Madam Clerk, we're going to go ahead and vote on the following items. Let's vote on item 1. item 10 through 24, and items 26 through 32. Please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
De Leon.
Aye.
Heristason.
Yes.
Koretz. Council.
Aye.
Thank you. Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Farrell.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Rahman. Councilmember Rahman. Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
14 ayes. These items are all adopted.
Okay, let's move on to item number 2. This was called special by Ms. Rodriguez.
We can go.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, today's vote will memorialize the great work which commenced back in 1974 in the office of Mayor Tom Bradley, where a woman by the name of Miss Olivia Mitchell, who many of us certainly have a great affinity and affection for, and rightfully so. Her leadership and example and mentorship has been one that has touched so many of us. I know Mr. Koretz, Mr. Ridley Thomas, and as a former participant in 1992 at the invitation of Mayor Bradley and Miss Olivia Mitchell, a letter that I still proudly possess today, I was invited to participate in Student Day in Government in 1992 and was joined then Council Member Ernani Bernardi and learned all about our local city government. The creation of the Olivia Mitchell Youth Council will formally memorialize an opportunity to invite young people in to be a part of their city government. That role so many years ago in the creation of that youth council that Mayor Bradley created helped build such incredible civic leaders and inspired so many young people, especially our beloved Tom LaBonge, members like Wendy Gruhl, so many civic leaders, that just countless individuals. And so it's incredibly important as we continue to give rise for young people to have a presence and a role in their local government, that with today's vote, we will create the Olivia Mitchell Youth Council. And I want to thank Mr. Koretz and Mr. Ridley Thomas for joining me in creating this proposal. You know, when we lost Tom so prematurely, I was reminded of making sure that we created opportunities that memorialized the incredible gifts of individuals that we have the privilege of knowing here in Los Angeles, Olivia Mitchell being among them. And it was from that wanting to honor both that legacy and continue that very important work that this idea was born. And so making sure that we don't honor those incredible leaders posthumously, I ask that today that you cast your aye vote in support of the creation of the Olivia Mitchell Youth Council. Thank you.
Mr. Cedillo?
I'd like to say thank you to the authors of the motion. This is much deserved and very timely, and it's hardly could be more appropriate. And so I just want to thank the authors for doing this, because few people in city service deserve this type of recognition, but she clearly does. I thank you.
Mr. Ridley Thomas?
Let me simply join in echoing the sentiments expressed by the authors of the motion and Mr. Cedillo as well. There's a song that says, "Give me my flowers while I can smell them and see the beauty that they bring." It seems to me that this is an appropriate tribute to the lifelong work of Olivia Mitchell. And the good news is that she still keeps going, mentoring, serving, leading, teaching. Her legacy in this regard is worthy of celebration, and I am completely committed to doing all that I can, Madam President, Mr. Rodriguez, to make sure that young people have an opportunity to learn what civic engagement is about by, first of all, understanding the fundamentals of civics. Madam President.
Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to join in recognizing Olivia Mitchell, and thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, for leading this effort. I first met her in 1975, serving on the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, and it's no coincidence that several of us over the years on council were encouraged at a young age by Olivia Mitchell to get more involved in and more civically engaged. I can't imagine the countless number of young people that she has mentored and set on a good path. I can't think of anyone more deserving of this kind of recognition. And once again, I appreciate, as has been mentioned, the fact that we didn't wait until after she had passed, but did this while she is young and healthy and continuing to mentor more young people. It's an honor to recognize someone that's done so much for so many people in the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. See no more members on the queue. Madam Clerk, let's prepare to vote on this item. Item number 2, please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
De Leon. Councilmember De Leon. Thank you. Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Koretz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Farrell.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Rahman.
Yes.
Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
15 ayes. This item is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item number 4, called special by Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 4 is a motion that directs the LAPD to report on increased hate crimes targeting the AAPI community, police response to those reported crimes, additional resources, and prosecution efforts. I want to thank Mr. Lee and all of the co-signers of this motion. As we begin Asian American Heritage and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, it's more important than ever to acknowledge the ongoing physical attacks, verbal harassment, xenophobic and racist rhetoric, discrimination against Asian Americans globally and nationwide, but of course, specifically here in Los Angeles. Across the country, from March 19th, 2020 to February 28th of 21, nearly 3,800 accounts of anti-Asian hate were reported to the Stop AAPI Hate group, hundreds of which occurred right here in Los Angeles. And these rates continue to rise exponentially, and even a larger number of hate crimes toward the AAPI community go unreported. But this motion and our efforts today state unequivocally that no one needs to suffer in silence. Colleagues, let's pull together and send a message that we are coming for anyone who bullies or assaults anyone else based on their identity. AAPI hate crimes reported at this time are all combined into a single Asian category, despite the vast cultural diversity that exists within the larger AAPI community. That is why I added a critical additional recommendation to the motion before us today, calling for a dialogue with the AAPI community and the LAPD on the best way to approach disaggregation of crime reporting. Currently, Asian is one category under current crime reporting regulations, no matter if a victim is of Thai or Bangladeshi heritage. Accurate data matters. Detailed information matters when it comes to addressing crime and preventing it from happening. That is why we need to make this important change moving forward. Many of us represent enclaves. I represent Thai Town, historic Filipino town, and portions of Koreatown. I want to assure the Asian American community and my friends that all of Los Angeles, in all of Los Angeles, we stand together in solidarity. So I thank you, Madam President. I thank you, colleagues, and I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. Just prepare to vote on this item. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Bonin.
Bonin, aye.
Buscaino.
Aye.
Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
De Leon.
Aye.
Harris Dawson.
Yes.
Koretz.
Aye.
Krikorian.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Martinez.
Aye.
O'Farrell.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Rahman.
Yes.
Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
15 ayes. This item is adopted.
Okay, Madam Clerk, Ms. Rahman?
I just wanted to say, I think there was a technical issue with my internet, and I wanted to make sure my vote was recorded on the batch of items that we voted on. I think it was 2 items ago, and my yes vote was not recorded, I believe.
10th through 24, and 26 through 32?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, yes, we have your vote as recorded.
Okay.
Thank you. And for the record, we will record Councilmember Rahman as an aye, and that is 15 ayes on those items.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. What's before us now?
Madam President, Council has motions for posting and referral. Motions will be posted on the City Clerk's website shortly after the meeting for the public's viewing. To subscribe to receive copies of today's Council motions to your email, please visit clerk.lacity.org.
Okay, those are posted and referred. Members, Mr. Lee?
Just a short announcement and announcing the retirement.
Okay, well, we're just about to get into announcements. So before we do adjourning motions, because we do have members who requested adjourning motions, we're going to first start with announcements. So go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Just wanted to congratulate and recognize the retirement of one of the beloved captains that covers part of my district and a part of Councilmember Blumenfield's district, Captain Maureen Ryan, who has a long, illustrious career with the LAPD, has decided to seek new adventures in retirement. And we just wanted to, as a city, congratulate her and wish her best of wishes on her future endeavors.
Here, here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. Any other announcements, members? Mr. Koretz, do you have an announcement?
Thank you, Madam President. Mother's Day is this Sunday, and I want to start by wishing all the mothers in my life and on my staff and out there listening a happy Mother's Day. I want to remind everyone to call their mothers in their lives and recognize them for their hard work and the tremendous sacrifices they make for their children and families. But when it comes to motherhood, I also want to talk about something that is sensitive and too often difficult to talk about, and something that women and men need to be aware of, which is perinatal mental health. It's something that is highly stigmatized and unfortunately can create more emotional damage because of the shame that often surrounds it, especially if left untreated. Only last month, we were made aware of the tragic and absolutely heart-wrenching incident that occurred in Reseda. Liliana Carrillo, a 30-year-old mother of 3, stabbed and drowned her 3-year-old Joanna, 2-year-old Terry, and 6-month-old Sierra. Liliana told investigators that she hugged her children and kissed them and was apologizing to them the whole time. She said she loved her kids. There's still unknowns in this case, but what is clear is that the tragedy was completely preventable. Her partner, Eric Denton, had for months tried to gain custody of their children because he believed Liliana suffered from psychosis and was keeping the children away from him somewhere in Los Angeles. She spoke of random invasive feelings of despair and pain. She said she was hating being a parent and wished she could go back in time, and said she had absolutely no patience or tolerance left. But by the time Eric had convinced the judge to give him custody, it was too late. I'll say it again, and I can't emphasize it enough, this was preventable. Colleagues, 140,000 babies are born in LA County every year, and new parents, particularly mothers, experience a host of changes and new stresses. Roughly 80% of new moms will experience the baby blues in one form or another. 20% of moms will experience perinatal depression. And less often, though no less important, as we saw with this tragic event that occurred last month, some moms will experience postpartum psychosis. These feelings can be brought on by any number of physical, emotional, and social changes, including a dramatic drop in hormones, sleep deprivation, or a feeling of being overwhelmed, experience a stressful event, limited social support, living alone, or marital conflict. And despite no fault of their own, postpartum depression has been heavily stigmatized. People expect new parents to be over the moon and glowing and happy, but given all the changes and new stresses associated with parenthood, this isn't always realistic. This is an issue I've been working on for quite some time. While in the State Assembly, I authored 2 concurrent resolutions, which resulted in the State Department of Health Services and the State Department of Mental Health working together to improve women's access to mental health care at the state and local levels. We've made some progress in recent years on screening, diagnosing, and getting help to mothers in need, but much more can be done and much more should be done, as we saw so dramatically emphasized by the recent events mentioned. And so today, in collaboration with you, Madam President, Councilwoman Rodriguez, Councilwoman Rahman, we've introduced a resolution in support of SB 935, which would establish the Mothers and Children Mental Health Support Act of 2021, which would provide a variety of services and give pregnant women and new mothers up to 1 year postpartum access to mental health consultations. We've introduced a motion asking staff to report on legal screening requirements for perinatal depression and compulsory education of hospital staff who treat pregnant women and postpartum women. Public and private perinatal mental health resources available to expecting and new mothers must be available, and the feasibility of developing and implementing a public education campaign to increase awareness of perinatal depression. And we've also introduced another resolution declaring May 2021 Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month in the city of Los Angeles. Colleagues, I hope you'll join me in this declaration and in future efforts to destigmatize and normalize discussions around perinatal health, because we can and should do more. Angelinos deserve more, and certainly Leanna, Joanna, Terry, and Sierra definitely deserve more. So I thank you for listening and for your awareness of this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Ms. Rahman?
I just wanted to thank Councilmember Koretz for pushing forward this motion and bringing this really important issue to light. Having personally struggled after the birth of my twins in what was supposed to be the happiest moment of my life and my family's life, I know that we need to really talk about this issue And I think the more that the city emphasizes that these are challenging moments for people and provides resources for them when they need it, and supports the state in doing that, I think we can do better in supporting people to be parents and to be mothers during what can be a very, very trying time. So thank you, Council Member.
Thank you, Ms. Rahman, for sharing that. I think for those of us who've suffered with postpartum depression, it can be sort of a cross to bear, and sometimes it feels very lonely. So I appreciate your bravery in sharing your story. Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Any other announcements, members? Seeing none, we're going to move into adjourning motions. Ms. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam President. I do have a few photos that I'd like ITA to please share for this adjourning motion.
Okay, hold on. Give me just a second. Okay. We are ready, Ms. Rodriguez. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, today I ask that we adjourn in the memory of Jane Bachman, who sadly passed away on April 28th, 2021, after courageous battle with pancreatic cancer. She was born on November 8th, 1930, in Van Buren, Arkansas, and moved to Los Angeles at the age of 11. She was the beloved matriarch of the Bachman family and the First Lady of Galpin Motors. She was a selfless humanitarian, civic leader, and astute businesswoman. She had a special and unique touch that was applied to everything that she endeavored to do. Jane wasn't just a gifted interior designer. She designed interiors of a series of motorhomes that became the #1 motorhome in their class citywide. She didn't just play golf. She hit 2 holes in 1, including the famous 6th hole on the Riviera Golf Course. She didn't just fly an airplane. She was a licensed pilot who flew cross country. She didn't just drive nice cars. She was part of the Galpin race team that broke a 24-hour endurance race land speed record at Willow Springs. She served Galpin Motors for many years as treasurer and corporate director and worked side by side with her beloved husband, Bert, building Galpin Ford from a small dealership into the #1 volume Ford dealership in the world. Jane founded the highly successful Valley magazine and served as publisher and editor-in-chief for 25 years. She also served on the Board of Governors of the Los Angeles County Museum of Natural History and was a founding member of the LA County First Five Commission. Jane is survived by her soulmate and husband of more than 50 years, Herbert Bert Bachman II, as well as daughters Laverne and her husband, Arissa, Denise, and her husband, Kenny, sons Brett and his wife, Betty, Brad and his wife, Tina, Bo and his wife, Mary. She is also survived by 12 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren. Colleagues, many of us have had the privilege of knowing Jane and Bert Bachman, and they were an inseparable couple who exuded a tremendous amount of affection for one another. If you were in their presence, you knew they were inseparable. I've had the privilege of knowing them for, more than 20 years. Obviously, both incredibly generous philanthropists and civic leaders. She and Bert just had a presence together. And, there have been so many videos of even when Bert's mobility has declined, videos of when they were visiting the dealerships in his little scooter. She would be on his lap. They were inseparable. And it's just a tragic loss for a couple whose love you were in the presence of whenever they were together. And so, colleagues, it is with sadness that I ask that today we please adjourn in the memory of Jane Bachman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez, and I ask that we do an all-council adjournment in memory of Jane, and thank you for letting me know that she had passed away last year. I think that you and I can both attest to the fact that every time we spoke to her or we were in her presence, she was a class act. She was truly an amazing woman and one of a kind. And I think you're absolutely right to describe the incredible love she had for Bert and what an incredible couple they were. So many of us can be so envious of that. And so I cherish our time together. And I want to just express my sincere condolences, and our thoughts and prayers go out to Bert, who I know is taking this very, very hard. And with the entire Bachman family, may she rest in peace. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to join Ms. Rodriguez and you in talking about Jane as the true matriarch, not of the Galpin family, of the Bachman family. Like Ms. Rodriguez said, wherever Bert was, you saw Jane. They had just an incredible relationship that when you were around, you felt just their love for each other. She was the epitome of class and someone who I had the pleasure of not only representing as constituents living in the 12th District, but as dear friends for many, many years through their countless acts of philanthropy throughout the city of Los Angeles, their civic leadership, both of them serving on so many different committees and boards and commissions. She was just someone who is very special to the Valley. She ran a Valley magazine for many, many years. She's just going to be sorely missed. It's going to be hard seeing the Bachman family in the future and not seeing Mrs. Bachman there with them. My heart goes out to their family right now, and to Bert especially, because we all know how much he loved her. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Blumenfield?
I just certainly want to be added on. As you said, I mean, the Bachmans were, well, Bert Bachman still is, but they are icons in the San Fernando Valley. And as was so beautifully said by my colleagues, I mean, Jane was a class act, and she has forever changed the San Fernando Valley in a very good way. And we're grateful to her for that, and may she rest in peace.
Any other members wishing to speak on the passing of Jane Bachman? Okay, thank you. Mr. Cedillo?
Madam President, thank you so much. I want to close in memory of a former resident of Boyle Heights, the Estrada Courts housing projects. Furman Oliva Jr., known as Furpo, was born on July 14th in 1923 in San Francisco. He was the second eldest in his family. He had sisters Celia, Margaret, and Olga, and one brother, Jesus. Furpo's family was a very creative family. They had a circus, and he performed in the circus, first as an acrobat. He didn't enjoy that, so instead, he took up the trumpet and became a trumpet in the band of the circus, a trumpeter in the band of the circus. And that was much of his life, Mr. Koretz. It was a difficult life, going up and down California, playing and performing in Baja California. They made friends with Eddie Albert and his band of performers as well. And so it was a very difficult life. You can imagine being having a Mexican circus during the Depression, during the 30s, trying to eke out a way of living and traveling throughout the state. Later, as a young adult, 1943, he enlisted in the Army, and he was stationed in Iraq and Iran for 3 years. And he, because of his talent, continued to play in the Army band throughout World War II. In 1946, he came back to Los Angeles, where he found the love of his life, married Della Gonzalez, and it was there that they formed their family and lived their early years in the Estrada Courts housing projects, right there in Borough Heights. 5 children, and he embraced Della's other children from her previous marriage. It was a difficult time in the 50s with his 5 children, his wife, and then caring for other children. And so as a result, he had to work a lot. So he worked as a musician, he was a licensed barber, he worked in a factory. And so he struggled to take care of his children and Della's other children. They lived in the projects, and then later on they were able to move into East Los Angeles, where he continued to work his many jobs, caring for all his children. Later, as did much of his family, he became a Christian with the Good Shepherd Bible Church there in Borough Heights, that then moved to Huntington Park, that moved out to the San Gabriel Valley, and was part of the band there. He was a great-grandfather, he is survived by 2 sons, 8 grandchildren, 17 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren. His grandchildren love him. The Olivas, the Colemans, the Cedillos, they love him because he was that great grandpa for the last, I'd say, 30 years that they could all go to and listen to his funny stories. And he'd entertain them with his music. He'd cut their hair. He was really, his best time was his years of being a grandpa. I will say that for me, his greatest contribution, of course, was being the father of my wife, Ruby Oliva, and of course, the grandfather of my son, Gilbert Jr., and my granddaughters, Hannah and Ruby. He passed this week, 97 years, full of life, did not suffer, was fine and great, Wednesday, Thursday, anxious to get out of the hospital, but over the weekend he just took a quick turn and left in peace, and is left by that incredible family, and particularly the children, the great-great-grandchildren, and the great-great-grandchildren. He will be missed and loved, but he will be next to his wife and my wife, and we'll join them shortly. So I thank you for this time, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Condolences to you, to your son Gilbert, and to your entire family. We were just talking about him not too long ago. So may he rest in peace, a life well lived. Thank you. Mr. De Leon?
Thank you very much, Madam President, as well as colleagues. And I too want to convey my deepest condolences to you, Councilmember Gil Cedillo, on the passing of your father-in-law, Ruby's father. So you're in our heart and prayers, as well as the family.
Thank you.
Madam President, as well as colleagues, I'd like to close in the memory of a giant here in Los Angeles, and that is, of course, Eli Broad. Now, Eli will forever be a son of Los Angeles, and to many folks who don't know, Eli was actually born in the Bronx, New York, back in 1933, born to both Rebecca and Leo Broad. A lot of folks believe he was actually born in Detroit. Actually, at the age of 6, both his parents relocated from the Bronx of New York to Detroit, Michigan. And his father became a union organizer in Detroit, Michigan. There he attended public school and actually went on to Michigan State University at Spartan, just like our very own Magic Johnson, where he worked various jobs through school and graduated cum laude back in 1954. That very same year, he met his lifelong partner, a woman who would be a pillar of strength, someone who had such a huge impact on his life. And that, of course, that is Edith Lawson, who became Edith Broad. After becoming, back then in the state of Michigan, the state's youngest certified public accountant, he actually started his own career in accounting and ultimately formed his own firm with a partner back then named Donald Kaufman. As we all know, it eventually became known as the Kaufman Broad Company. And they would, he and his partner would establish it as one of the largest home construction businesses that revolutionized the industry by streamlining the construction process. KB, as we know. Now the Broads, I should say, moved to Los Angeles back in 1963, and Eli quickly found a footing as a local civic leader. If you're a civic leader in Los Angeles, it's not like being a civic leader, as we know, in a very small town. That means you're a national and international leader as well. By 1969, during a very turbulent period in America, KB Home was the actual first home builder listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And soon after, he acquired Sun Life Insurance Company of America and transformed it into a retirement savings powerhouse, Sun America. His business acumen was amazing, as we all know, but he'll truly be remembered for his incredible civic activism and his cultural philanthropy. His larger-than-life vision helped shape the city of Los Angeles as we know it today. And we all know that Eli spent tens of millions of dollars to endow medical and scientific research programs right here at the University of Southern California, as well as the University of California at Los Angeles, the Trojans, as well as the Bears, the University of California at San Francisco, Harvard, MIT, as well as Caltech in Pasadena, where he established a biological science center. His lasting legacy, however, we know maybe his contributions of the Walt Disney Concert Hall, a time for when the economy was down and no one was really stepping up, whether it was the public or private sector, but through the force of his personality, the force of nature, who he is, he spearheaded the construction and finally the completion of the Walt Disney Concert Hall on Grand Avenue, right in the heart of LA, downtown LA in City 14. Also, the Broad Museum, the art wing of the LA County Museum of Art was named after him. And he also saved, the Museum of Contemporary Art from a major financial scandal. There's no mistake that Los Angeles lost a civic giant and a devoted philanthropist. Through his civic engagement, LA catapulted into the world stage of arts, from museums and architecture and education. And regardless of perhaps how controversial his ideas, his thoughts, his philosophies may be, there's no question he challenged the status quo, and he challenged all of us to see things differently. I don't believe anyone could ever question his unwavering devotion and his dedication to the city of Los Angeles. We may have actually personally disagreed on occasions, on approaches or perspectives, but his loyalty to the city, to our city of the Angels, was truly genuine. Eli Broad demonstrated the importance and the impact of civic engagement and philanthropy. And sometimes when government doesn't step up, folks like him stepped up for government because of the lack of the policies that improve the human condition for all individuals. And because of his contributions, LA has become a much more international city, a city that was very, very different from a few decades ago. The future of LA will be shaped by the kind of civic engagement and philanthropy where diversity is fundamental and economic equity to who we will become as the city of the future for this country and its nation. There's no doubt about it. We've lost a giant, unlike other cities like San Francisco and New York, where you do have lots of wealthy individuals who really stepped up. Not so much here in LA. Perhaps a handful of folks, perhaps folks do it in the shadows, they do it quietly, but he stepped up. And then again, even though he could be controversial and that sharp tip of the spear, a lightning rod that polarized, sectors of our society here, at the end of the day, he put his money where his mouth is at. And he stepped up for the city of LA and made it a much better place. So colleagues and Madam President, I adjourn in the memory of an amazing Angelino who's up in heaven now with his own pair of wings, Eli Broad. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De Leon. I think you covered everything about Eli and what an incredible impact he had in our city. I'd like this to be an all-council adjournment.
Absolutely.
Thank you for leading us.
Madam President, may I make a comment on Mr.
Hold
Broad,
on for
please?
just, Mr. Cedillo, hold on for just a second. I've got other members on the queue that also would like to speak on Mr. Eli Broad. Ms. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Mr. De Leon. I thought you did an excellent job really capturing all the facets of who Eli was and what he meant to our city. You know, he cared enough to invest his time, money, and energy to raise expectations and challenge us all to be better. He was just, you know, he left an indelible mark in this city. And whether you agreed with him or not, it was still an active engagement that drove some pretty substantive changes here in the city of Los Angeles. And for that, I will always be grateful for his leadership, for his friendship and support. And he was a giant and remarkable Angelino. And we are really blessed to have had Eli Broad here in Los Angeles. May he rest in peace.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Mr. Cedillo.
Madam Chair, let me obviously attach and commend Senator De Leon, Professor De Leon, for the comments on Mr. Broad. Let me share with you just briefly. You know, I was first elected in 1997, took office in 1998, and we did a quick conference downtown. We had a conference downtown at the LA Theater Company, and it was a conference for me as a union leader. It was my effort to become more of a civic leader and to reach out to the business community and to help promote.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you
help promote economic development. And so during that time period, we put together this conference and we invited Eli Broad. Now, here I am, a newly elected assembly member on a special election, and we invite Eli Broad. We don't have a thought or a chance that Eli Broad would come and attend this conference. I mean, you know, who was I to think that he would come? He shows up, and it was amazing because here's this man, as Mr. De Leon has described him, a giant of two industries, you know, one of the more significant players in the history of the city. With all his history, with all the controversy, he shows up to the conference and he gets up there with the other speakers and plays a major role. But the thing that struck me was, he said, I'm here because Gil Cedillo and I have something in common. I thought, wow, this is going to be interesting. He says, we love Los Angeles. And that's why I'm here today, to talk about Los Angeles and how we're going to build its future. And so for whatever thoughts you may have about this man, and he was a gentleman, he supported me in many of my initiatives. He's a man of incredible candor when you would talk to him, very precise, didn't waste words. This man loved the city. And from his position in life, he did all that he could to make this a great city. He loved this city, and that's what we should all share with him. We may have different points of view and stand in different places, but I don't think anyone can question his love for this city and his desire to make this a great city. May he rest in peace. Mr. Broad, God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to weigh in. It's all been said by Mr. Cedillo and Mr. De Leon and Ms. Rodriguez. Eli Broad was the ultimate civic booster, and we need many more of them. He and his lovely wife, Edith, their contributions to Los Angeles are just too innumerable to state here in an adjourning motion, but we all, the entire city, benefit from that. What I want to just focus on is his contribution to the arts, his emphasis on art with the Broad Museum, one of the world-class museums of contemporary art that he brought to all of us to downtown Los Angeles, which is one of our crown jewels here in downtown, which helps cement our legacy as a world city. And that is still aspirational, but Edith and Eli Broad catapulted us forward in that effort. And in terms of his appreciation of art and bringing the museum and his incredible collections and his support of the arts, I think that he understood how art transcends everything, how art is a universal value and theme that brings all cultures together and transcends differences and is one of the most important institutions that any major city can hold near and dear and elevate and value and invest in, especially in a city like Los Angeles, which is one of the multicultural cities of the world. I think he understood that fundamentally, and I will be forever grateful for he and his family's contributions to the city of Los Angeles. And I also want to thank the Broads for introducing me to Bill Clinton. When the museum opened, I walked right up to Eli Broad and I said, "Sir, you need to introduce me to President Clinton." And he did just that. And I'll never forget that moment either. It was a wonderful moment. So what he brought to this city, generations are going to benefit from. And I think the Broads must, and the family must really, really appreciate and value that we all benefit. And so he'll be dearly missed. And I just want to add voice to this adjourning motion and to everything that you all have said. And for future Eli Broads, we need you. The city needs you. It's not just elected officials. It's not just the volunteer corps of people who give when they can, what they can, how they can. It's the philanthropists of great cities that are one of the most key and important ingredients to help define who we are. And as I mentioned, we are aspirational to be the world-class city that the residents of Los Angeles deserve. And we cannot do that without the generosity of our civic boosters and philanthropists. And Eli Broad and Mrs. Broad have paved the way and set the standard for that. So colleagues, may Eli Broad rest in peace. Thank you.
Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Madam President, colleagues, I doubt that it's easy to define Eli Broad simply. He was an expansive figure in a variety of ways, and I think that's true across cultures in many respects. It's already been well stated about who he was and how he lived. Let me just conclude my remarks by a song that is often heard at memorial services. Eli Broad was yesterday. The song was not sang there, but the words are as follows. These lyrics are appropriate. May the works I've done speak for me. May the works I've done speak for me. When I'm resting in my grave, there's nothing more to be said. May the works I've done speak for me. Let it speak for me. Think Eli Broad's words are documented in his deeds. That's why we pay tribute to him today, and I suspect for many days to come. Madam President, colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley Thomas. Mr. De Leon, you do have another adjourning motion, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please continue.
Thank you very much, Madam President, as well as colleagues. This will be my last adjournment in memory today, but colleagues, I would like to adjourn in the memory of the lives lost in the tragedy in our very own sister city, Mexico City, late last night. A subway overpass collapsed late Monday evening in the Mexican capital, sending a train plunging to the ground, killing at least right now 23 people and injuring dozens more. We have yet to learn the the identities and the stories behind the lives of these children, of these women and men. But we can be assured that the makeup of this ridership, working class families leaving work and coming back home to their families, that their lives mattered. To Claudia, la jefa de gobierno del DF, Claudia Sheinbaum, and to all of our own peers or colleagues in el Ayuntamiento de la Ciudad de Mexico, we're keeping in prayer the families who lost loved ones in this tragic accident, and our hearts and minds are with the rescue workers and with the medics right now working to save lives. Para nuestras hermanas y nuestros hermanos capitalinos, estamos contigo 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De Leon. Mr. Bonin?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to ask that we adjourn today in memory of a spiritual leader in my district, a friend of mine, Rabbi Morley Feinstein, who passed away last week from cancer after serving a full and rich life as a spiritual guide to generations of people, including 17 years as the senior rabbi at University Synagogue in Brentwood. Rabbi Feinstein was born in Chicago, but he was an LA and a California guy. He actually grew up in Beverly Hills and graduated from Beverly Hills High in the 70s, and he went to Berkeley. He left California for a few years. He actually got ordained in Cincinnati in the early 80s, and he did a stint as a rabbi in San Antonio and in South Bend. But then he came back here to the place he always felt was his home, to Los Angeles, and he became the senior rabbi at University Synagogue in 2002. And he really just brought the place alive. He spearheaded a growth in the congregation full of commitment to spiritual life. And he really drove the congregation and the congregants to dedicate itself to community service and to social justice, and to committing to the greater community of Judaism in Los Angeles and around the world. And he had a remarkable tenure there. He retired in the summer of 2019, and then he became Rabbi Emeritus. He got a lot of accolades for his work here in Los Angeles. He was honored by the Jewish Federation of Greater LA with its Rabbinic Award. He served as president of the Southern California Board of Rabbis. He was treasurer of the Central Conference of American Rabbis. And he was particularly dedicated to interfaith dialogue. And as part of that, he served with the Los Angeles Council of Religious Leaders. But he was also a senior rabbinic fellow of Jerusalem's Shalom Hartman Institute. And that was a place where it sort of brought and demonstrated his passion for Torah and zest for learning, and really his deep love for music. He also really loved youth and young people. And for 34 years, he taught at a variety of different summer camps of the Union for Reform Judaism. He was, I knew him for a number of years. He was just a very warm and a wonderful man, very humble, a quiet strength about him, and a deep spirituality that you could feel and be inspired by. He guided so many people through weddings and family tragedies and bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and everything in between at University Synagogue, and was a real presence in Brentwood. My condolences to his wife, Margaret Myers Feinstein, who's a historian and professor in the southern end of my district at LMU, as well as his entire family and his giant network of friends and coworkers and congregants. May he rest in peace. Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Bonin, if I might ask you to add my name to your resolution.
Absolutely.
It's been a request by Mr. Koretz to be added to that adjourning motion. Madam Clerk, thank you. Mr. Gregorian?
Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn this meeting in memory of one of the great spiritual leaders of the East San Fernando Valley, a humble man who lived an extraordinary life, Pastor Bob Bach, who passed away in April at the age of 85. I had the privilege of introducing Pastor Bob to the council 2 years ago in City Hall when we celebrated his half century of service as senior pastor of the First Christian Church of North Hollywood in Studio City. Pastor Bob was a man who manifested his Christian values throughout his life in service to others. He began his ministry at the Hollywood Beverly Christian Church, where his main responsibilities were Christian education, youth work, and community service, which included a very close relationship that he developed with LAPD's Hollywood Juvenile Division, and he took an active role in engaging with youth who were living on the streets, runaways and others who needed that lift up, and Pastor Bob was there to give it to them. Supervisor Ernest Debs appointed Pastor Bob to the Board of Education of Los Angeles County, a position which he held for 16 years, including 4 terms as its president. And in that role, Pastor Bob often traveled to Washington, D.C. to speak to members of Congress about the educational needs of youth, and especially youth who were at great risk. During that time, he was even invited to serve as the guest chaplain for both the United States Senate and the United States House of Representatives. It was in 1969 that Pastor Bob came to North Hollywood, came to Studio City to begin his ministry as senior pastor with the First Christian Church of North Hollywood. And he would go on to serve his church and our entire community, as I said, for more than a half century. Over 25 years ago, Pastor Bob led several Christian and Jewish congregations in creating the Interfaith Food Pantry, which was then an ambitious ministry to feed the hungry, and it went on to become one of the most important sources of support and aid to those living in poverty in the East San Fernando Valley. And today, there are 13 congregations working together to feed hundreds of homeless, poor, and underemployed people every single week. In 1985, he added to that effort by creating Operation Santa Claus, which met the needs of the clients of the food pantry with gift giving at Christmas time. And in the early 2000s, he initiated a park ministry through which volunteers went and delivered homemade food every second Sunday to the homeless who were then living in North Hollywood Park. They would distribute clothing, blankets, shoes, socks, whatever the population needed. They were there because of Pastor Bob's leadership to deliver and to serve those needs. I guess in a sort of only in Los Angeles kind of story, while he was serving his community in so many ways through his ministry, Pastor Bach also was an active member of SAG-AFTRA for 40 years. He had a recurring cameo role in 3 major daytime dramas. He served for over 25 years as the resident pastor for The Young and the Restless, which was a role that they actually named after him. And then in 2007, he appeared as a minister in the Academy Award nominated motion picture, There Will Be Blood. But despite his glitz and glamour in Hollywood, Pastor Bob was best known for ministering to not to the wealthy, not to the powerful, not to the famous, but to those who have nothing, those who are most in need, those who are often without hope. Pastor Bob was there to give them hope and uplift them. Pastor Bob is survived by his wife, Peggy, his son, Brad, and daughter-in-law, Deborah, his son, John, and daughter-in-law, Susie, his grandchildren, Ben, Samantha, and Sophia, his nieces, Jennifer and Natalie. And Pastor Bob lost his first wife, Betty, who predeceased him in 1981. Pastor Bob's life was always about ministry, but his concept of ministry was always community-based. His slogan was a church in the heart of the community and the community in its heart. And he really lived that slogan every day. He touched the lives of thousands of people through his extended ministry within both the entertainment industry and throughout the San Fernando Valley. He is dearly beloved will be desperately missed by many of us in the Valley, whose lives he changed for the better through his devotion, through his teachings, through his compassion, through his willingness to help others throughout his life. May Pastor Bob Bach rest in peace. He will always be remembered in our part of the Valley. And I ask that we adjourn this meeting in his memory.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Any other adjourning motions? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned.